Hello everyone. Today we will examine yet another horrific situation. Jealousy is a horrible, frequently destructive emotion that can cause blindness and drive someone to commit crimes. The catastrophe that occurred in Costa Rica a few years ago was brought on by jealousy. This case became known as the Gerardo Cruz case in forensics history. But first, let's discuss each topic in order. In February of 1975, Simodi Fonseca was born in Costa Rica. We know very little about her early life and family. The girl was raised in a place called Cuba, where she shared a home with her mother, Sonia Fonseca. Even as a student at one of the neighborhood schools, Simodi showed signs of her complex and demanding personality. She frequently used force or deceit to get what she wanted, and did not tolerate rejection. Residents of the area recall that Simodi was able to attract men with her attractive beauty and ideal figure, but she was unable to maintain them. Simodi was quite attractive and had a great sense of style when it came to her appearance, but her greed and conceit caused her to prioritize material wealth and self-interest over all else, which only served to turn off cavaliers after a brief courtship. She also exhibited extreme jealousy and aggression. Due to her doll-like appearance, Simodi Fonseca was hired as Barbie for a number of years in one of the company's large bookstores when she was younger. The girl was given this endearing moniker at that same moment, which has stuck with her ever since. Simodi had an affair with a prominent journalist who worked on local television not long after she graduated from high school. Osvaldo Fernando Ballery, the man's name, was 16 years her senior. Although it was Simodi's longest and most committed relationship to date, the chosen one never extended an offer to her. The couple welcomed Cristina into the world a year after Christopher, their shared son, was born in 1996. But Ballery left the young lady due to ongoing controversies and jealousy accusations from Simodi. Osvaldo, 53, passed away unexpectedly in 2012. And it soon became clear that he had left his former girlfriend out of his will. The young lady made the decision to act independently, since she could not stand it any longer. She actually went to a previous lover's house and took control of it, locking it to prevent heirs and family from entering. Simodi also stole a few priceless possessions from the deceased. Angry, the Ballery family rushed straight to court to hold Simodi accountable for the theft. The young woman was made to leave the premises by the police, but no criminal charges were brought against her. Fonseca had numerous romantic relationships, one of which was with Miguel Angel Perez, the father of the woman's third child, a girl named Maria. While some sources assert that Simodi was never married, others say that this union was legally recognized but ended in divorce a few years later. Simultaneously, without her lover's knowledge or approval, she gave her youngest daughter her lover's last name. It's an odd fact that some of Barbie's lovers either mysteriously vanished or passed away in weird ways, but for a very long time, nobody seemed to care. For instance, one of Simodi's lovers vanished, and family members claim that this occurred shortly after he chose to end his relationship with an abrasive and irascible woman. Although there is still no sign of the man, many people are certain that Fonseca is directly involved in this case. Yet, solid proof of her culpability could not be located. Diocco, Simodi's other ex-boyfriend, tragically passed away following their breakup. When he was killed, it appeared to be a botched robbery attempt, and the enigmatic murderers were never apprehended. Once more, everyone conjectured that Simodi was involved in the crime, but no concrete proof was discovered to support those theories. Nonetheless, Gerardo Cruz was her most well-known victim. Cruz, a native of Costa Rica, was born in San Jose in December 1992. The boy didn't know his own father because he left the home before his son was born. Gerardo's mother, Ana Patricia, shortly wed Hermes Rodriguez, who took in the infant and reared him as his own. Melina, Gerardo's younger sister, was born a few years later. The guy's early years can be described as tranquil and worry-free. He attended a regular school, enjoyed riding motorbikes, and soon fell in love with Carol. At the age of 23, Gerardo moved into his aunt and uncle's home in the San Sebastian metropolitan suburb with his chosen one and their shared 4-year-old daughter, Genesis Cruz. To ensure that his family had everything they needed, the young father started working at a nearby bakery. The couple was overjoyed to find out that they would soon be welcoming a second child into their household. Samedi, a regular customer of Gerardo's bakery, was introduced to him in the summer of 2015. Even though the woman was 40 years old at the time, she was still very attractive and enjoyed dressing fancifully and flirting. It's important to note that as she grew older, she undoubtedly felt charmed by young men's attention and started having affairs with them. Despite their nearly 20-year age difference and the fact that they had a family, Cruz fell in love with a stunning woman very quickly and started meeting her in secret. In order to see her young sweetheart, she started going to the bakery nearly every day, which caught the notice of other staff members. Furthermore, Samedi frequently made appearances with Cristina, her eldest daughter, who was 19 at the time. Initially, Gerardo was able to deftly balance his family life with his mistress's discreet encounters, keeping all of his women in the dark about the presence of a rival. However, Gerardo, as they refer to it, eventually relaxed his defenses. He started bragging to friends and co-workers about Samedi, how she is a wonderful mistress, and lavishes him with presents, obviously in an attempt to flaunt his success with women. His mother was soon informed of the rumors and attempted to talk her son out of leaving his mistress. After learning that the lover had a pregnant wife and a little daughter, Samedi ended the brief romance in October of the same year, 2015. The woman was so enraged that she began taunting Carol over the phone and through texts, threatening to kill Gerardo if he didn't belong to her alone. Gerardo succeeded in pleading with his wife for forgiveness and preserving the family unit. Regarding the ex-girlfriend, he didn't consider her threats to be significant because he thought she would soon get over her feelings and find a new partner. He had no idea Samedi would turn out to be so cunning and spiteful. A few days following the split from Fonsec, Cruz happened to catch a glimpse of an obvious situation. While strolling along a downtown street, the young man noticed an older man following a young girl, holding his phone so that the camera was hidden behind her miniskirt. Outraged, the man pulled out his phone and began to record everything that was going on. He then stopped the girl, told her everything, and advised her to call the police. Cruz then pursued the man in an attempt to take a picture of his face. After questioning aloud whether the man was enjoying himself and snapping images of the girl's underwear without her knowledge, he pursued him for almost 2 minutes until the man got into a taxi and left. Gerardo uploaded the video he had recorded that evening to his website. In a single night, the video became viral as people instantly recognized the elderly guy as Luis Solmano Delgado, a former official who worked for the Ministry of Finance. The media quickly found and shared the footage, making Gerardo a household name across the country. The young man was invited to appear on radio and television shows, and he was interviewed for print outlets virtually every day. He discussed the incident he had seen, denounced the former official's behavior, and declared that he would repeat the action without hesitation. Solmano Delgado engaged seasoned attorneys to start working against Gerardo at the same time, accusing him of misconduct. They were planning a lawsuit against him in court, claiming that the individual had broken the law by distributing the videotape. Cruz was taken aback by the change of events and couldn't understand why he was being judged instead of the man who had done such a heinous murder on an innocent girl. On October 7th, Gerardo appeared in his final interview on a local radio station. He felt certain that he was correct and thought he had nothing to be afraid of. Gerardo had scheduled an after-work meeting with his friend Oswald for the next day, but he called the meeting off with an unforeseen emergency. He was due to be interviewed again that evening at the park, but a young woman conned him into coming, as it turned out, into a message from Samedi that day. Gerardo just trusted his ex-girlfriend, having no inkling that anything was amiss. When his duty ended, he headed to the designated location, but no media were there to greet him. However, two unidentified individuals stole his luggage, punched him, stabbed him multiple times in the stomach and chest, and then ran away. The injured man was able to tell his friend what had happened over the phone before he passed out, and the friend promptly phoned the police and ambulance. Because of his quick thinking, Gerardo was sent to the hospital, where medical professionals battled for 42 days to save his life. Gerardo had numerous surgeries during this period, but sadly, none of them were successful in saving him. Cruz passed away in the intensive care unit on November 19th. He had been a true star since just before the catastrophe. Without exaggeration, his illness followed the entire nation. During their sporadic interviews, Gerardo's family requested everyone to pray for him to get better. They couldn't comprehend who or why might have done such a thing to Gerardo. Many individuals showed up to the man's burial to offer their sympathies to his family. Everyone also voiced the hope that the killers would be apprehended promptly by the authorities and given just punishment. There were initially multiple accounts of the crime. First, it was a murder committed during a robbery. In fact, Gerardo was stabbed with a knife and had his backpack snatched from him during the evening attack in the park, making him appear to be a typical thief. But only a few days prior, Cruz had leaked a shocking video that exposed a well-known former official. Thus, the second theory, a murder committed in retaliation. Solmano Delgado could have paid hitmen to get rid of the young man who had damaged his reputation. The media freely stated and published. People picketed the streets, demanding that the murderers be apprehended and put in jail. The murder was also the subject of intense press debate. The police started to consider and provide several versions of the story, as well as search for further potential adversaries and well-wishers of Gerardo. The investigation was put on hold for a few months until a video from a street surveillance camera was uncovered in May 2016. Two males can be seen fleeing the site where Cruz was shot to death in the video. These men were prime suspects right away, but it was up to the police to find and apprehend them. The recording proved to be an important piece of evidence, and the case progressed when it was disclosed to the public. It played over and over on news shows, with a warning that viewers should examine these people carefully, as they might be dangerous criminals. Furthermore, the police were able to describe the men's physical data and create crude sketches of the sought individuals. One of the individuals quickly came to light since he chose to turn himself in to the authorities and assist with the investigation in the hopes of having his sentence lessened. The inquiry swiftly identified several more collaborators and the masterminds of the crime, Somodi and her daughter Christina, thanks to the information he supplied. All of the criminals were soon placed under arrest. The mother and daughter were detained, along with a number of other men. A small child who was directly involved in the attack, laborer Cesar Chavez, who served as an intermediary, and taxi driver Ronald Archie, who discovered the murder suspects. After the attack, Omar Costa, who had been tracking the victim and reporting his whereabouts, was also taken into custody. Through phone calls and text messages, the roles and relationships of every individual involved in the crime were determined. Somodi, who had meticulously planned the entire affair, engaging her daughter Christina in the finer points of the scheme, gave the order for the murder. They went to their friends Ronald and Cesar for assistance in finding two hitmen to kill Gerardo, and staged the scene as an attempted robbery at a theme park. Omar eventually joined them, and he had to make sure the victim went to the designated place. October 7th was the date that Somodi herself selected for the massacre. She got in touch with every person involved in the crime that day, assigned duties, and made sure everyone carried out the plan. Furthermore, the young lady insisted that the person who committed the crime deliver her some of the ex-lover's possessions as proof. Cruz went directly to the park after finishing his shift. He made an effort to get at the meeting on time because he was positive he was going to an interview. However, he was ambushed and repeatedly stabbed at the prearranged location. He then stole his jacket and backpack, which the customer had handed him as proof. The text messages that detailed the murderous scheme and the responsibilities of all the players were the primary proof of Somodi's guilt. The woman didn't even bother to remove them since she was so sure of her impunity. The root cause of this serious offense was simple envy. The woman concluded that no one would get it if he was not with her and did not want to share a lover with his wife. She carefully considered every move and included her own daughter, who was always there to support her, in her illegal scheme. The mother and daughter were brought into custody right away, and it was impossible to release them on bond because the culprits would most likely try to flee the country. All of their accomplices, aside from Omar, who oversaw surveillance, were placed in pre-trial custody. Additionally, the youngest offender in the case was turned over to juvenile delinquency specialists. After around a year and a half of research, the trial of every member of the criminal conspiracy didn't start until December 2017. Furthermore, it was discovered that Somodi had been charged with a crime multiple times in the past. She was specifically detained for falsifying records in order to obtain public funding, but she was simply fined. Furthermore, the father of Somodi's youngest daughter, Miguel Angel Perez, has come to light. As it turned out, the young woman transferred the child's last name to a former lover without getting his permission. She then used the legal system to get alimony from him, which she had been receiving for more than 3 years. The con artist received a sentence of 3 years in prison and a hefty fine when it was discovered that the entire process had been faked. However, the judge reduced the punishment to a 5-year suspended sentence after considering the fact that she had a young child. During the trial, the wife of the deceased Gerardo acknowledged that she was aware of his relationship with Somodi and that the former mistress had threatened to kill him, but that he had ignored the warnings. As was already indicated, the woman's jealousy and wounded pride served as the primary motivation for the crime. She could not accept that her young lover had chosen to remain with his wife. The mother and daughter conspired to arrange the crime together, as evidenced by the phone records. It was also revealed that Christine suffered a nervous breakdown following the public publication of the very CCTV tape that showed the murderers. She sobbed as she contacted her mother, who reassured her that the inquiry would never be directed toward them, stopping her from confessing to the police. Announcement of the verdict came on January 23, 2018. Somodi was given a 30-year prison sentence, per the court's ruling. Ronald, Caesar, and her daughter were all sentenced to 25 years in prison. At that time, the second killer had not been located, and the first had been sent to a juvenile jail facility. In contrast, Omar, who had been trailing the victim, was found not guilty. $140,000 was given to the victim's family as moral compensation. Following the verdict's announcement, Gerardo's relatives thanked the court for imposing a just sentence on his killers. It was quickly revealed, nevertheless, that Somodi and Christina's attorneys had filed an appeal with the appeals court to get the terms reduced. November 2019 saw the start of the next trial. Simultaneously, the second murderer's identification emerged. Ronald claimed that this person participated in the slaughter, but was not aware of the specifics of the strategy. In an effort to get the sentence lowered, Ronald and Caesar both filed an appeal with the appeals court. Each person involved in the crime had their sentence reduced by 5 years as a result. Currently, Somodi is incarcerated in a Costa Rican women's jail, serving a 25-year sentence. She registered a marriage with a lady she met in prison, as was made public in the summer of 2020. Lindsay Diaz-Lopez is her chosen name, and at the time of the relationship's registration, she had already been freed on parole and had managed to leave the prison walls, whilst Somodi would spend over 2 decades behind bars. I appreciate you viewing. Please consider subscribing to the channel, as there are a lot of amazing stories to come.